Channel news. I got to do this quick before the sun goes down. It's already Friday and I hadn't done any news. I'll probably just, like usual, go off the cuff or wing it for today's news. I did find some notes that I couldn't find last time. I got a bunch of back orders and I wrote some of the back orders on little cards. So that's where they went. So now I got them all. Yeah. My little cat friend, I think, just jumped into my shop. Or no. Anyways, got to keep an eye on that because I don't want any accidents inside the shop, or little deposits, let's put it that way. Okay, so, yeah, my name is Patrick. The channel name is Jack Crafty. Okay? If you want to see something that I might have covered, because I've been doing this a long time. I've been making videos a long time. People still don't know what I look like, so that's why I do these news videos. But if you want to see something, or if you're curious if I have done something that you might be interested in seeing, then type in a search, Jack Crafty, and then whatever it is you want to see. Now, lately I've gotten questions about my tools. How do I use my tools? Can I explain how I use them and how I build them and how I choose the materials for my tools, etc., etc. Everything that I know about my tools in one video, let's say. Well, it's not possible to do all that in one video in under an hour. So if you have a question on my tools, just type in Jack Crafty Tools, and I've got several videos on that. Now, if you have specific questions about my tools, be very specific, like what is the weight of blah, blah, blah. That's very specific. What is the length of blah, blah, blah? What is the alloy of this aluminum? What is the alloy of that copper? Where do you find this specifically? What's the link to buy this certain item? Those kinds of specific questions, put them in the comment section. I will answer specific questions. But general questions like what is this Ishi stick you put behind your knee, and explain everything about it? Well, that would take too long. I've been doing this for over 10 years on YouTube, and I still haven't explored all the possibilities. I've got over 2,000 videos, just for those who don't know, okay? Where did I learn the behind the knee type indirect percussion? You're looking at the person who invented it, behind the knee. Now, I didn't invent indirect percussion as a general technique, just the behind the knee. I stuck the tool behind my knee one day out of complete frustration, using methods that I had seen on YouTube prior to 2009, okay, or in 2010, somewhere around in there. I was watching YouTube videos from 2005 to 2009, and I got into knapping in 2007, but I didn't start posting videos of my knapping until 2011, in the beginning of 2011. Okay, so I was self-taught, even though I started watching YouTube knapping videos early on, like in 2007, right? That's what I said. I was on YouTube before that. I hadn't started the channel. I was looking at stuff on YouTube since 2005, I think. Yeah. 2005 was when I got inspired to make arrowheads from one incident that happened to me on eBay. I was bidding on a bow and arrow set, a real one, and someone sniped me in the last 2 seconds of the auction. And I was willing to spend hundreds. I think the bidding was up to $600 and some odd dollars. Well, I don't know if at the time someone had developed software that can snipe in the last 2 seconds, because it was just too smooth. If I try to get at that time, if I had tried to bid in the last 2 seconds, I would have been late. There's no way it would have registered in time, because my connection, even though it was at work, I was bidding at work on the fastest system possible. There's no way I could have bid in the last 2 seconds. So it was some sort of automated bidding that this guy had used or developed. And it got me so angry that I had lost that auction that I had decided I'm going to make this stuff myself. I'm going to make it myself. This is ridiculous. So that's when I started to look in that direction. I had already made a bunch of stuff before that as a hobby, you know, bows and arrows and arrowheads. I made some arrowheads as a kid out of ground down slate, and was shooting those when I was little. And all kinds of different points on the arrows, mostly just sharpened wooden points. But sometimes I would make an arrowhead out of ground slate and put it on the arrow. So I had experience with bows and arrows and stuff like that as a hobby, but I got seriously into it because of my interest in Native American weapons. And I really wanted a real set bow and arrow together to see and to analyze everything about those. It was a complete bow and 2 arrows that went with that bow. Very rare opportunity, especially at that price, under $1,000. It was pretty good. Well, I didn't get it. That made me extremely furious, more than I'd ever been about anything online before, including all the trolling and stuff that I saw and stuff like that. Nothing compared to the anger I had when I lost that auction. And to top it off, the buyer, because I followed that buyer, I could see that he would do the same thing with other items, bid in the last 2 seconds and snipe and get the items. But he broke up the set of the bow and 2 arrows and sold each separately for profit. And that made me even more angry, because the set itself contains information that you don't get with those items separately, where the arrows match to the bow. What is the correct brace height to get these arrows to fly straight? Or does it matter? Do they not fly straight at all? Or do they fly perfectly straight at a certain string height? Does it matter how should I say? Does it matter the dynamic spine on these Native American arrows, or they didn't care about it? They just, or the weight of these arrows, did they match each other? What is the proportion of the pull of the bow to the arrow itself? Like, does the bow pull 50 pounds, but the arrows are spined for 20 pounds, let's say? That's that sort of thing. The set itself contains a wealth of information, and this guy, just for profit, broke them all up, and we lose that information when people do that. So since then, I've been trying to develop my skills so that I can actually recreate some of these Native American things and find out information about them as a whole instead of individually, and as systems instead of just individual objects. Like an arrow is a system. It's not just the point. It's not just the piece of rock. The arrow or the spear or the dart or the knife is not just the rock. It's the handle. It's the type of material used for the handle. It's the glue. It's the wrapping. It's the use of it, the use wear. All that stuff can only be explored when you have the whole thing. So I've been trying to do that whole thing approach on the channel. Okay. So that's the introduction. I'm getting into soups now. I tried smoking a cigar today, but I got stomach cramps. That's definitely affecting me. Same thing with coffee. I can't drink coffee. Although someone recommended some Italian roast coffee, I'm going to try that. Can't resist that. Yeah, if I smoke too much on a cigar, I get a stomach cramp nowadays. And that didn't happen before because I had given up cigar smoking for about a year or so, just because I woke up one day, I had no interest in it. But I think it had to do with brain fog and some weird effects from the nicotine. Anyway, I now get stomach cramps from it. Yeah, because I've been smoking on and off cigars here in the past month or so, mainly out of stress because of this hospice thing. I'm taking care of my dad. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to get into that aspect because it is stressful to talk about it, and I don't want to introduce any stress into the videos, other than the napping stress. Yeah, flint napping stress, like the sweat stage and so forth. Yeah, that's fine, but personal stuff, no. But anyway, I'm getting into soups, and I like my soups strained with no floaties. There are some floaties on top of this, but it's mild. I can deal with a little bit of floaties on the top, the spices and stuff. I think that's some parsley or whatever in that mix. Anyways, chicken bouillon. I'm going to be boiling down some other things. Things are going on sale now for Thanksgiving, so I'm going to buy different meats and stash the freezer full of meats. And I'll be making different stocks, lamb uh, and different meats, turkey. I'll make stock like or bone broth or whatever from these different meats. Okay, and I'll try them out. I'll let you know how it goes. But yeah, like I said, I like the soup strained. And then what I do is I separate whatever I strain out of the soup, I'll just eat by itself. And then the liquid is what I like to sip on in cold weather. And it is getting cold. I like having soup in hot weather too, but it's not as satisfying as the cold weather. All right. Not as satisfying as it is during the cold weather. Okay. On this channel, I also talk about autism and ADHD. I have symptoms of both, not clinically diagnosed. I have one son. I have two sons. One of them has been clinically diagnosed with autism. I can see that it runs in my family. My dad has signs of it, very obvious signs. I don't presume to be without autism. I think I do have, well, I know I have signs of it. I've taken a couple tests, and I match like 93% of autists as far as mannerisms go. Um, Now, I may look normal, but I've learned to mask and imitate. I have to rehearse a lot of things, and a lot of times it comes across as not authentic, or I can't put together any kind of response other than a canned response. And I like using canned responses that I get in emails and stuff. Like they'll recommend a response. Once in a while, yeah, if I'm in a hurry, or even if I'm not in a hurry, I'll just hit a canned response. Oh, thank you, and oh, that was awesome, or it'll be something already suggested for me. I'll hit that. For me, communication one-on-one is difficult. Now, communication, which is weird, between you and me on video is easy for me, but one-on-one, somehow the cues from another person start to mess with me, and I don't know what's going on. I'm too hyper focused on the cues that I'm trying to interpret, because I've always had a hard time figuring out what people are up to. Yeah. So this format is easy because it's not. I can see myself, but I don't. I'm looking to see basically if I'm talking correctly. But yeah, I will talk about autism once in a while. I'll joke around a lot now on my videos and stuff, so I won't be seriously talking about autism because I'm not an expert. I'll be joking around. Sometimes I'll make fun of myself or other autists. Okay, so just fair warning, just so you know, if you're new. Now, one time I mentioned that I was getting 200 to 400 new subscribers a week. No, that was per month. I looked at that video recently and I went, no, yeah, that's 200 to 400 new subscribers a month. That's more reasonable. Yeah, but there's still a lot of people that haven't seen what I look like. You may not want to watch after you see what I look like. Yeah, because you might feel that I'm not attached or I have no no direct contact with the stuff that I'm researching, or have no direct experience with Native American culture, as an example, and stuff like that. So that's fine. You can change the channel if you want. That's not going to bug me. But just be aware, I have had some experience with artifacts and stuff. I have very generous friends, and they share their finds with me, send photos of their arrowheads and artifacts that they send. I have a lot of Native American artifacts myself, including stuff like hammerstones and manos and metates and chopping tools and pestles and nutting stones with little dimples in the top. Sometimes both sides have dimples in these nutting stones, and pottery shards. I've got all kinds of stuff that were given to me that were collected mainly as surface finds on private property. Now I say mainly because some of this stuff has come through channels where people sell these items. And I've bought some artifacts before, and some people have bought artifacts from other people and then given them to me. So there is a combination of people giving me stuff that they have found, and also I've purchased some things. And I have nothing against collecting and selling artifacts as long as it's private. Now, if the land is protected and there is no allowance for hunting of artifacts on the properties or on the public lands, I think that's fine as well. Perfectly fine. That's within the law. Laws are passed for a reason. Yeah. So I don't recommend gathering or hunting or looking for artifacts on areas where you shouldn't be doing that. Do not do that. I don't recommend it, and I don't encourage it. I don't want anyone to be under the impression that I think it's okay. No, follow the laws there. Now, if you can't get a hold of artifacts, if you don't have a lot of generous friends like I do, I feel lucky, then we can make some. We can make these things and they can look like the real ones, right? But there's a problem. Yeah. What's the problem? They can get confused with the real ones. Yeah. So I do have a channel where I use natural tools to create these items. It's called Allergic Hobbit. You can look up Allergic Hobbit Knapping, and it'll bring you to some of the videos there. I don't have very many videos there. I could post more and I could make money off that channel, but I'm not going to do it yet. I might do it in the future, although I don't know if I'll monetize it for myself. The problem is with artifacts and new reproductions is that they can get confused, especially if the collector dies or gives away items that can be confused. Passes on items when he dies, or gives away items that can be confused with the real thing. And if you're using natural tools to create these types of items like knives and blades and arrowheads and points and all that, you can get them mixed up with the real thing. So there's an ethical problem there, and I am concerned with that. So moral of the story there with reproducing stone tools with natural tools and traditional old methods is kind of dicey, because if I teach you how to do that, there are some people who will take that knowledge and create fakes and counterfeit items. Okay? So one of the reasons why I don't do it very often is because of that reason. And if I do now make items with natural tools, they will be on video so you can see and identify those items. Okay, and I won't make them on the side secretly and try to sell them off as real. Now, not very many people do that. You got to admit. I mean, that's just cheesy, or that's just, what do you call it? Not cheesy. That's just sleazy. All right. No one hardly ever does that. So it's not that common, but it does happen, and I don't want to encourage it. Okay. And I don't want to have any issues with it later on. Okay. So I will explore other methods. One of the reasons is I don't want to be reproducing this stuff with old tools to show you how to make fakes. And also, I like to explore other methods of making these things because I am of the opinion that you cannot determine how these items were made by looking at the flake scars. Why? Because there is at least 2 different ways to make the same exact flake. That means you can only be 50% correct at best. 50% chance of being correct. I mean, you'll be correct half the time at best if you try to judge how these things were made by looking at the flake scars. Okay? Now, some people are of the opinion that certain tools produce certain certain ways of the flakes. Certain tools produce certain looks on the flakes. You can tell by looking at the flake, because of the way it looks, what tool was used to make it. My opinion is that's false in the majority of cases, okay? Because you don't know exactly what the tool was. To know what the tool was, you have to know the shape of it, the size of it, the weight of it, the amount of force used on it, and what type of force. Was it pressure force or percussion force? There are many factors involved. Now, you can generally say that they were made with natural tools. Yeah, okay, but that doesn't help us. That's obvious, right? When you start to try to get into particulars, you're going to fall into falsehoods. And if you want someone to tell you particulars on how these ancient points were made, or artifacts, or anything like that, you are asking for trouble. I hate to say it, because the person that's responding is not going to go into the kind of detail you need in order to have the truthful answer. Okay, you may get a generally correct response. We know that certain stages of production require certain tools. Like in the beginning, when you're spalling big chunks, you're not going to be using a little pressure flaker. You're going to be using something larger to knock off spalls, for instance. For instance, a small pressure flaker is not going to be able to chip off a big spall from a large nodule. So we know through physics there are certain types of tools in general that are used for certain kinds of flakes. Okay, that is also obvious. People who ask the question, how are they made? They already know that answer. That's not what they're asking for. They're asking for particulars. And the particulars are where you get into trouble. Okay? And then when you show people how to make these things with particulars to look exactly like the old ones, you run into some problems too. Because they might get confused later on down the line with real ones. Why is it important? Why does it matter if they get confused? So what? Some people might say. It's because of the truth, right? We need to know, if we're serious about these ancient cultures and stuff, we need to know the truth behind how these things were made, and we need to proceed carefully. Truth is very difficult to find. So we need to proceed carefully. Yeah. If we're interested in the truth. If we're not, then it doesn't matter who makes these things and what, if they get confused or not. The problem is it true that these things were made in a certain way? And is it culturally based? Is it technical? Is it just technicalities that are involved, or both, or what kind of a mix it is? If we explore it ourselves in the modern age and try many different methods, we can probably capture a method that's correct within our studies somewhere. We just don't know which one is correct, but it may be captured within our studies if our studies are broad enough and detailed enough that we can know, but we just don't know which one is correct. But since we know a lot of methods, in that way, we can know how they were made. Okay, is that clear? If we know a lot of different methods and we've exhausted as many methods as possible, the method that was used to create that thing may be in those methods somewhere. And if we know about all those methods, then yeah, we know how they were made because it's within there. We just don't know which one exactly made that or was the technology behind that particular item. Okay? All right. That's my focus on this channel. And I'm going to warn you to be wary of those who say, I know which one within our broad knowledge is the one that was used as far as methods and technology to create that point. Be skeptical of those people. I was hoping he wasn't going to do that. He's been riding around on his little, I don't know if you call it a motorcycle or what. It's just a little bitty thing. Anyway, he was doing that all day, and I thought he'd quit, but nope. Anyway, what else can I say? I'm going to be doing a lot more glass and obsidian. I still got a lot of stuff to do that was given to me as a challenge by Brian. Yeah, Brian Olson. Lots of people want to see these large blades being made. I personally don't like making those. I prefer this size and smaller. Just me personally. Both in terms of the time it takes to make one and also the availability of material. Yeah. This type of material or this size and this type is much more available. And I like having the option to mess up and try again on something else without worrying too much about having enough material. If I mess this up, that hurts because it's kind of rare to have a large piece to work with. Okay? Same back in the day too. Back in the old days, you might think that they had lots and lots of large stuff to work with. Not really. A lot of that had to do with how do you carry it back to your campsite. You can carry a lot more of these little points that'll each become a point than you can of these that'll each become a point. Now you say, well, if it breaks, you just make smaller points. They didn't do that back in the day. If their culture demanded a large piece, they would only keep the large pieces. Right? Yeah. There's pieces that are very large, and if they broke, they had to go get something else to make another replacement because they liked the large pieces. It wasn't all that common, but it did happen. He's riding around his house across the street. And here it's a goldfish bowl. Right now you can see the neighbor on the hill too. In the summertime, the leaves are covering all that. But yeah, we're all close by here. I live in a little village. The sun is behind the hill in front of our village over there. And I'm hoping to get this video completed before it gets too dark. What else can I say? I'm going to be doing a lot more obsidian and glass. Yeah. Focusing a lot on that because I've been thinking about this for months. How am I going to produce videos for new people in my new series for new people? And that I can't get enough chert or flint in pieces that are available to most people, because that situation doesn't exist. But it does exist with glass and probably obsidian. So the most common nappable material that everyone can get is glass. Next is obsidian, and then all the cherts, and then all the flints, and then all the exotics. The exotics, nice colors and all that, are at the bottom. Of course, everyone wants to see flipped. They want to see big pieces of exotic materials, and they don't care too much about little pieces of glass. I'm going to flip it around. I'll be napping little pieces of glass for the new guys in my new series on showing newbies the basics of napping. Yeah. And I'll throw some chert and flint in there too, just for grins and giggles. Yeah. Okay. I can't hear myself think when he does that. If he just stayed in his backyard, it'd be better. But he rides around in the front too. Okay, I think that's it. It's 30 minutes. That's good enough. If you have questions, please be specific on my tools. You can put them in the comment section. Same with any other video. Please be specific. Alrighty. There you go. That's it.